Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. Scott Linden here. Glad you could join me as we are counting down the days, maybe the hours. Well, maybe you're already shooting early geese for all I know. But up here at the Upland Nation podcast, we're getting ready for all those seasons, yes. And thought it would be a good time for us to cover, one of the basic topics that maybe you've ignored or decided you wanted to get better at. Shooting. As you might know, I'm the worst shotgunner on television. But in the course of trying to be better at it, I've learned a heck of a lot and frankly, improved dramatically. Thank you, everybody who's helped me. I'm stealing all your ideas this week and giving them to everybody else. So here are your last-ditch shooting tips. If nothing else has worked and you're still missing the broadside of a barn, we're going to cover a whole bunch of that today, so stand by. And one of those things might be of value to you. So stick around. I hope you learned something. I've also asked everybody out there to contribute their suggestions. I've asked what's in their gear kit that they're taking into the field this season. So we'll be getting some good ideas there as well. And then in the Handle It segment, Jim Smith asks about how to use all those other features in a GPS collar. I'll share some of my thoughts and some thoughts from others as well on how to take full advantage and help your dog become a better hunter with all that other stuff there. So stick around for all three of those and who knows what rabbit holes we'll go down to as well. It's all brought to you by Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Pointer Shotguns, Mid-Valley Clayson Shooting School, a great place to shop for a shotgun too. Trulock Choke Tubes, MidwayUSA.com, just about everything there. Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Flick's Food of Choice, and LandTrust.com. Find your personal favorite hunting spots. What are we doing? Still on the same. It's cooled off enough we can put a little more miles on the electric motorcycle with Flick trotting alongside. I don't know about you, but I'm really liking the idea of giving him more, what I'll call mid-range, not too fast, not too slow miles, just to get that stamina up for the long runs ahead, whether it's Montana sharptails in the prairies or those Chucker Hills. Both of those, he's going to do anywhere from 5 to 15 or 20 miles a day. And if I can get an extra day out of him, all the better. I know I should be doing it on my mountain bike, but I can't put in near the miles where we live on the hills that he can put in. So, yeah, I'm doing my own bit too. So are you, I'm sure. And like I said, what are you up to? Well, you're organizing your vest, your truck, and all sorts of other things. And so let's see what's in your vest and your gear kit this year that we might be able to share as well. Tony Hill has a great one. Cool. A handmade deer antler whistle made by a friend. Sounds great and gets the dog's attention. I'm presuming it's kind of like a P-list, commercially made whistle. That's beautiful and kind of cool. Pardon me. Cork Green has a great tip, and I like this a lot. Whether it's chapstick or anything else for your dog's dry, cracked, or sunburned nose. Yeah, especially sunburn. Yeah, they all work great. And, I've talked about some of the things I use on Flick's feet, his pads. Anything that keeps that nose moist probably wouldn't hurt at all. Joe Rundell recommends large zip ties. I got to order some new zip ties, by the way. Thanks, Joe, for the reminder. Large zip ties to release a conibear trap. Yeah, and practice a lot with that. It is. I'm glad you dodged the bullet. You had a close call last season. 8 feet from a set. Whew, called her off in time. Somebody else mentions that another great product that I carry and have practiced with, and that's the Trapper Ron's Safety Setters. You just have to look it up on YouTube under that title, Trapper Ron's Safety Setters. Even those take a little bit of practice, but they're a lot easier than trying to deal with zip ties, or, a lot of people say, oh, take your leash and put it here and wrap it there and put your feet here and drink, take a look at those. Trapper Ron's Safety Setters. Robert Murphy, I'm with you there. Benadryl and a snake bite, prevention. Rattlers are still out. Well, they're out all season in a lot of places, so that's a good one as well. Cork Green, glad you're able to get out again. Spray bottle, Lynn Glock, yeah, got that from the show with Al Gadori. Yeah, easier than trying to cool down your pup with a water bottle. You don't waste as much either, that's the thing. If you're on one of those hunts like some of us do, you don't want to see a lot of water on the ground. You want to see it on your dog, and that's a great way to kind of economize. Scott Todd, cool. That's a good question. Maybe I'll ask that next. Scott brings his father's brass lapel compass from the 1940s. Yeah, love that. Maybe we'll ask about all that other kind of sentimental value stuff that you're carrying there. Really neat stuff. Brian Kenny will end with yours. Knipex, Knipex, wire cutters. Again, after listening to one of the podcasts. Yeah, absolutely. Just to be clear, side cutters, dikes, whatever you want to call them, wire cutters, aren't going to cut that aircraft cable that is in a lot of the snare traps. So get some real bona fide wire cutters and carry them along with you. Hopefully you never have to use them and they rust to death, but better safe than sorry. And that part of the Upland Nation podcast brought to you by Pointer Shotguns. Yeah, the opener is here, or almost here for all of us. I keep forgetting, just next door in Idaho, they're shooting chuckers on September 15th. So maybe I'll drift over there a little bit early this season. Who knows? Anyway, pointershotguns.com is where you can pick up, even this time of year, they're always in stock. They keep their dealers fully functioning all season. Whatever you want, from a semi-auto to an over-and-under to a side-by-side, any finish from nickel to Cerakote colors, and any gauge. If you're looking to upgrade, try a side-by-side for a change, or go from a pump to a semi, whatever, go to pointershotguns.com first. Yeah, the best over and under for less than $500 according to Target Focused Life. And if you're planning a long trip this year and you want to make sure that you have a place to hunt and it has been well managed, then explore landtrust.com. You can get outdoors without a crowd, exclusive access on private lands for your next hunt. You can focus on the fun stuff, your dog, your friends, beautiful country, trying to find birds. It's all there. Create a free account on landtrust.com where their platform will help you scout for quality upland experiences. And finally, midwayusa.com. They got just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. If you can't find the ammo you're looking for right about now, they'll have something there for you. Whether it's non-toxic, lead, anything in between, hunting loads, target loads, they've got it at midwayusa.com. Sign up for emails or text messaging and get 10% off your next order. And there's always a sale, a special, or a contest of one sort where you can save a little bit more or get a bonus of one type or another. And don't forget to watch my exclusive videos right there at midwayusa.com, all about dog training, kind of the things that, maybe it might work for you. They work for me. And now let's get down to brass tacks, as it were. Brass. Get it? Yeah, you do. Thanks. Appreciate that. I thought it would be a good idea to kind of touch on some things that might help you, and also, being a little selfish, remind me of some of the things that I need to work on continually, especially in the heat of battle. So I'll break this shooting tips primer. Maybe that's the wrong term for it. Shooting tip advice, hints, suggestions, hacks, tricks, something, last ditch efforts for when everything else failed. Or maybe you just need your memory jogged. Of course, all of this is better off. Your shooting will be way better off if you take a few lessons and practice hard. Shoot a few hundred rounds, even between now and your opener, whenever it is. But if you still need something else just to get you over the edge, finish that great hunt on a high note, whatever it is, maybe one of these will help you. They're in here because they helped me, and they're part of a work in progress, an e-booklet that, same thing, Desperation Moves, that might help you, that I'll probably put up on finebirdhuntingspots.com very soon. So keep an eye open for that as well. So I'll go from the range to the field, cover a lot of things in between, a whole bunch of bite-sized ideas that just might help. First on the list, at the range, you can analyze and overanalyze ballistics. You can pattern your shotgun and your ammo and your choke tubes and all of that. But at some point, you're probably going to have an adverse reaction to recoil, especially if you shoot a lot. That could be a flinch, a squint. You could mount your gun so that it doesn't hurt as much. All of those will impede your ability to focus on the target, especially if you're shooting heavy target loads. Game loads, of course, the same way, especially high-quality game loads. But at the range, one of the simplest ways to minimize flinching is to just shoot lighter loads. Yeah, if you're not looking at the box and buying the target loads that come out of the muzzle at 1,000 or 1,100 feet per second instead of the 1,400 feet per second, maybe that'll help your shooting right there. Yeah, when the bird flies, you won't feel it anyway, and you will have practiced more correctly, and that will put another bird in the bag every once in a while. Speaking of practice, overtraining can be as bad as not training enough. If you're an athlete, a real athlete, I shouldn't say that. We're all real athletes if we're walking around out there. If you're a football player or a golfer, you got to worry about that a lot. We can overtrain our dogs a bit too, of course. But a lot of times the fundamental problem is what I learned in the music business is only perfect practice makes perfect. So if you're going to the range and shooting 150 rounds, I can almost guarantee you the last 75 of those rounds you're not doing everything the correct way. You've just lost your focus. You're just phoning it in, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Number one, you're wasting 3 boxes of shells, but number two, you're not mindful on that last 3 boxes. So remember that perfect practice makes perfect. Shoot 25 good ones. If you're doing great, shoot another 25 and call it good. Come back the next day or maybe even later that day, but don't shoot, 150 in a row. It probably isn't going to help you. Okay, still at the range. I've made a big deal about this, and I'm even more so than ever now, the ready position. And on TV or even in the magazine pictures you'll see people walking in on a pointing dog with their gun at, port arms. Everybody knows what port arms is. Or another, quote, safe, unquote, a way to carry your gun is with the muzzle pointing straight up. And those are all good. And I believe in those. But the last few steps into the dog and the bird that theoretically is in there too need to be a little different if you want to hit the bird when it flies or the target when it's launched. I call it the ready position. There may be other names for it as well. But what it does is it minimizes how many moves and how big those moves are with your shotgun. Think about it. You got to go from port arms to the gun on your shoulder while you're looking at the bird. That's a lot of different motions. Instead, the last couple steps into the bird, if you're flushing it yourself, or alongside or around the dog, get to the ready position. Point your muzzle downrange in the direction you think the bird's going to fly. Bring it below your armpit, if you will, and out away from it. Not in the armpit, forward of the armpit. Muzzle is still pointed generally a little bit up. Trigger hand, of course, in a safe position. No fingers in the trigger guard yet. When you push the bird or the bird flies wild, that's when you bring your forward hand forward, pulling the gun up, and you're leaning slightly forward and into the buttstock. Pull the trigger, and then say fetch. Ready position. Save yourself a lot of movement and the chance that you're waving the gun muzzle too much. All right. I talk a lot about this move, mount, shoot idea, and that's part of it right there. But practicing it, if you can't get to the range, is sometimes a little bit of a headache. But if you have an empty room and an empty shotgun and a little flashlight and an oscillating fan, you can practice all of that anywhere. I got a sort of a man cave that I can put that little oscillating fan that goes back and forth, put it on the floor, duct tape the flashlight to the top of it, turn it on. What are you going to see? You're going to see that the flashlight beam against the wall going back and forth, back and forth. Now you can practice a little bit closer to real when it comes to that move, mount, shoot idea. You've got a consistent and constant supply of targets in that flashlight beam. Yeah, just be careful. Don't do anything stupid. Tell everybody else what you're doing, and obviously make sure your gun is empty. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation Podcast, a special episode on shooting tips and tricks, hacks and hints. Maybe something will help you. What the heck? If you're missing the broadside of that barn, what have you got to lose? Yeah. If you haven't yet, go to the range or wherever you're going in all your hunting gear, from your boots to your shooting glasses to your vest, fully loaded with what you're going to take on your first hunt, and work out all the logistics that you're going to run into that you haven't before if you've been at the range with your, target vest or your, waist belt or whatever. Those things will really change the way you mount and the way you swing. So give them a try before the season starts. Let's see. Still at the range, just for a couple more, I think. Let me talk a little bit about foot position. If you've seen me over the years or we've shot together, I've been through a million foot positions that are all basically ways to, I hope, get a better gun swing and a better gun mount. Here's what I'm finally settling on, and boy, that was a good choice of words, actually. Why I'm doing it. You want to be able to swing, not your gun per se, you want to be able to swing your whole body from the hips up. Swing your whole body toward the bird as you're mounting the gun. That all happens at the same time. You're swinging your body and you're mounting the gun. As soon as the gun hits your shoulder, you're pulling the trigger. All right. Over the years, I've experimented enough to figure out that the best foot position for that, for me, is basically squared up to the direction I think the bird is going to go. Okay, you know what everybody calls the rifleman position. Well, that makes it harder to mount the gun. Think about it. Just look at the geometry there and you'll see what I mean. But if both of your feet are pretty much squared up the direction the bird is going to fly, and they're apart about as far as your shoulders are, and it takes some getting used to. That's a lot different than most people shoot or learned to shoot or think they should shoot. But if you've got those two right there, look at a defensive back. Look at a linebacker this season and see what they're doing. You can even look at the linemen. They're not doing anything much different than we are. The reason is you can move in any direction freely. You have the maximum swing of your body, and your gun's going to follow it in both directions, left to right and right to left. That gives you a great field of fire with maximum flexibility. Now try that in a rifleman position or even something sort of like that, and what you find is your swing in the direction of your forward foot is impeded dramatically. And somebody pointed out this to me a few months ago. Not only is it impeded, but the last few feet of that swing, your body and your gun swing are arcing down. Somebody called it a rainbow swing. So put your feet kind of together under your shoulders, squared off to the direction the bird is probably going to fly. That might help you, especially in the field, when you really don't know what direction the birds are going to go. You're ready for almost 180 degrees of shooting arc, if you want to call it that. So tighten up your stance, most likely is the right way to look at it. If you are shooting a lot of birds that fly down or fly low and level, many of the quail, the chukars, especially if you're in the hills, they're going over the ridges, that sort of thing, and you're trying to practice a little bit more of that, maybe your range doesn't have any target presentations like that, you can make them. Shoot any of the other going away targets. Just give them another beat or two before you actually mount the gun and pull the trigger. Practice those. Just like the violinist asked the taxi driver how to get to Carnegie Hall. Practice, practice, practice is what he said. Make your own dropping targets. Just wait another second or two at the range on those incoming or outgoing or even crossing targets. Give them another second, and sure, momentum's going to catch them, and they're going to start coming down. It's a hard habit to break because at the range especially, the right time to hit those targets is as they're going up like a real bird. But if your real birds in the field are going to be going down, that's an easy way to practice it. Yeah, so at the range, what else can we talk about here? Okay, there's that. There's that. Shoot with people who shoot better than you. Way back in the day when I was working in the rodeo business, I got to go to the Cowboy Downhill as part of the National Stock Show in Denver. Got to ski at Steamboat Springs before we worked the rodeo. And I skied with a guy who could have made the Olympics. He was that good. And he forced me to ski above my pay grade that day. Same holds true with shooting. Seek out the folks who need a fourth in their squad, who are better than you. You never know what you might learn. It may be nothing. It may be a lot of fun. It might be very embarrassing because you will be outshot, no doubt about it. But you might just learn something from them. It could be anything from gun mount to how they psych themselves up to how they stand to what they do during and after the shot. Whether it's the style that you shoot or not, you will learn something. When you do, buy them lunch and then have a better hunting season. Well, I got lots more here on the Upland Nation podcast about hunting hints, tips, hacks, and suggestions that might work for you. Let's get away from the range and go a little bit further afield, pardon the pun, in the second half. So I'll have all of that, and then I'll have Jim Smith's question about using a GPS collar's other features in our Handle It segment. So just touching on some of this stuff, it's all going to be in that e-booklet. About 11,000 words is what my last count was. Anyway, that's all coming up right after this word from highvissights.com. Yeah, we're talking all about shooting here, and one of the things that has helped me dramatically has been using those patented interlocking light pipes. You can switch out the colors. They're easy to install. Most of the time it's just magnetic. You just stick it on the front end of your gun. Your brain never loses the bead while you're focusing on the target. Works for me. See how it might work for you. Watch the video. I explain it all in the video at highvissights.com. And this is when we start being mindful of taking good care of our guns. They are tools that we have to take care of if they are to serve us well in the field. That's why I like sageandbreaker.com. They got gun cleaning and gun care, gun transport products as well. Everything from shotgun cases to CLP, their spray-on cleaning, lubricating, and protecting spray. Convenient and works. Everything has a lifetime warranty, and Fred Bohm takes some of the best pictures on Facebook. Get over there. Watch all of the videos on cleaning and taking care of your shotgun. Sign up for the mailing list, and you won't miss out on future sales and announcements of new products. It's all at sageandbreaker.com. Welcome back to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden. We're a shooter on television, but learning every day, constantly a student. I've talked about my music background. I studied with a legend in the music world, classical music world, many, many years ago. And I said, geez, you're so good. I'm honored you would take me as a student for the day, et cetera, et cetera. I'm pumping him up, and he's taken it very well. He's been there and done that. But I finally said something like, now that you're a teacher and you're working with all of us, blah, 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 students here, learning there, teaching that. But he says, I'm still a student. I learn every day. And so are we. And that's what, what this is all about. If you're a great shooter, more power to you. I'll bet most people who are listening to me right now have one or more of the same problems I do, and hopefully I can help you with them one way or another. A quick idea here or a suggestion that just gets you to maybe change your foot position a little, whatever it is. That's my goal. Take it for what it's worth. Oh, and by the way, it is free, so worth every penny. More generally speaking, let's see. A great instructor years ago used the term shooting like a predator. And I like that because it helps us do what many instructors or grandpa or your dad told you to do, and that is put your face in the stock. When you get the gun up, make sure your cheek touches wood. I even did a video where, put a $20 bill in between your cheek and your gun stock, and if it falls off, your buddy gets to keep it. I'm not telling you to go that far. You might be broke by the end of the day. But think about that, and think about it with the term shooting like a predator. It kind of really enforces that. If you are focused solely on the bird when it flies, everything else comes into play, and your face just naturally finds that spot on the gun stock. I know it might be a cliche eventually, wood to wood, or whatever your instructor, helper, mentor uses, but they all keep your eye-target relationship correct and your face in the stock. Now, this is a basic one, but, let me ask you all. When was the last time you picked up your empty, safe shotgun and practiced mounting it? I've talked about the ready position. Do you practice it? Well, does Scotty Scheffler just show up on the first tee and hit his drive on hole number 1 at the PGA? No. He probably spent some time at the practice range and on the practice putting green that day before he ever stepped up to the line. Well, we should do the same, and not just the day of, but for a long time. We're talking about, what do we call it? Hand-eye coordination. And one of the best things you can do, and also muscle memory, because, again, perfect practice makes perfect. How do you do that? Well, when you can, in appropriate locations, or maybe after dinner or whatever it is, during a commercial in the football game, pick up your shotgun, get in the right position, and practice mounting your gun. Start in that ready position, practice mounting. Find a, quote, target, unquote, somewhere, and just slowly practice. Now, here's one thing that I've learned over the years, and Tom, thanks again for being the guinea pig on so many of these things. Tom last season went from a semi-automatic to a over and under, and had trouble finding the safety on the new gun, because it's a tang safety up on top. You move it with your thumb instead of that safety on a lot of guns, on a lot of semis that is down by the trigger guard. So he had to slow down even more and start working on that aspect of it. When to do it, how to do it, as part of his gun mount. It all needs to be integrated in one way or another. That's one thing. Now, the other thing that I recommend, because it works for me, is close the deal. Get some snap caps. I don't recommend empty shells for a bunch of reasons, but invest in a pair of snap caps. Put them in the gun. And when you've done everything correctly, actually pull the trigger. That last motion, that final act in the play, closes the deal and ensures that the whole process is being done correctly. Yeah, 10 times a day. I was talking to a bow hunter a few days ago. I said, "Are you ready?" And he says, "No, but I'm still shooting 10 arrows a day, and 10 is just right." And he's absolutely correct. Not too much, not too few. Okay, so if you're in the field, things change dramatically. There are so many variables that we have to kind of, organize our heads a little bit more, and try not to be as distracted as we often are out there. There's always an excuse in the field for missing birds, isn't there? Let's try and distract ourselves less, and focus on the things that will make you a better shot. And here are some of those. Birds and dogs hold better when you move with confidence. You got a dog on point? You be assertive. Stride right in. Try and be away from your dog a little bit. That's another story for another time, but stride right in on the bird, and everybody will probably do what's expected of them. The dog sees you being confident and will hold his point. The bird sees you moving in and will hold as well. Time and time again, I'm reminded of this. And in fact, I'll never forget a South Dakota hunt once where the owner of the ranch's, nephew came along. And my dog goes on point, and he's 100 yards from me, but he's only 30 yards from that kid. So that kid sees the dog on point, and he just minces his way toward the dog and where we think the bird is, slowly, as if he can sneak up on a pheasant. And pretty soon I just yelled at him, "Walk in. Make yourself known to everybody." And at that point in time, things might work. Well, it didn't in his case. He still took his time. The bird decided, no, I'm not going to be here for that. So walk assertively. Go in on the birds. Once everybody's settled, the dog is steadied, move in on the bird and put it in the air yourself instead of letting the bird make the decision on that. Okay, so the bird's in the air. You're in the ready position. The dog is still steady, right? Well, not if it's my dog, but if it's your dog, maybe it's still steady. What do you do next? Wait. I've paced this off so many times. I don't care if it's at the range or in the field. Most people are shooting at birds when the birds are too close. Try it yourself. You'll see. Most birds end up being shot at 25, 30 yards maximum. And if you pattern your gun, how wide your pattern is at 20, 25, or 30 yards. Not very big. If you wait a half a beat or a beat more, the bird's still in range, but your pattern is bigger. It doesn't take many pellets to drop most game birds. If you've got good choke tubes and good ammo, there won't be a lot of holes between the birds. Wait a moment. Fly fishers in the old days in England, you'd make your cast and you'd watch the fly, and then the trout would come up and grab that fly. If you're quick on the draw, you're setting the hook then, and you're pulling it out of the fish's mouth. So they used to say, when that fish rises, mutter to yourself, "God save the king." That gives the trout just enough time to basically hook itself as it turns. Well, you can say whatever you want, but give those birds just another second or two before you pull the trigger. I did some research a while back and realized that, okay, so you're shooting a game, shooting a hunting load at 12 or 13 or 1,400 feet per second, maybe even faster. Even the fastest pheasant can only get up to about 40 miles an hour, and that's from a standing start. It takes a while, so you're never going to lose the race between your shot string and a flying bird. Give it a minute. Okay, give it a second. Maybe 2 seconds. Then mount and shoot. It works for me. It might work for you. Okay, let's see here. Just a quick warning. One of the first trips I ever made in television was to a place in Kansas that had a sporting clays course as well. We were there in, I don't know what month it was, but it was so cold. And we were going to make a hunting show nearby or something like that. But we climbed onto the sporting clays course and got behind a squad of guys who were all shooting a certain semi-automatic that is all black and is highly regarded. But, they kept bogging us down. We'd have to wait for them to finish at that station before we could go to it. And they were always messing with their guns. And so we finally caught up to them and realized that their guns were not functioning very well. They weren't cycling. They were all semi-autos. They were not cycling. And so they thought they were just pouring the WD-40 to those guns, just thinking, well, we're just gonna get it so lubed up that they got to work better. And some of you are chuckling already. You already know this, but I didn't know it until then, of course. But you put too much of anything on a gun, and it's not going to be it's not going to be better lubricated. It's going to be gummed up. You add sub-freezing temperatures, and it's even worse. And then if you realize that WD stands for water displacement, not anything having to do with lubrication, then you'll quit using it. Find something else, or better still, keep your gun sparkling clean, and you won't need near as much of anything. Avoid the WD-40. I've never learned that the hard way because I've never shot a semi-auto to speak of. But if that's what you're shooting, you might want to keep that in mind. Some of the things that I'm guilty as charged, and so are you, I'll bet. We go hunting for what reason? To watch the dogs work. Dogs work for many of us. The grand finale. He slams a point, and got him. Let's go find the bird. So and you've seen it. I'll stop and I'll look at the camera and I'll say, "Hey, isn't that cool?" The way that now Lynn, the other camera guy, will come over and get a really good close-up shot of that dog. And I'm admiring whose ever dog it is. I'm admiring the dog, just reveling in this beauty, and I love that part of it. But at some point, I better quit doing that because the dog's getting nervous, the bird's getting nervous, and somebody's going to fly away, or somebody's going to crash in and fly the bird for me. So after a wonderful, quick picture if you need it, or just a nice stroke on his back or whatever you do to steady your pointing dog, walk in and fly the bird. Plenty of time for more pictures later, or alternate with your buddy. But the longer you're admiring your dog, the more nervous that bird's going to be. If the bird's nervous, he's going to fly when you're not ready to shoot at him, and you're going to miss. It's as simple as that. All right, I was in a very small town on the 4th of July last year, and as part of the festivities, they had a goat roping. If you've never been to one, you need to go. It was my first. I'd worked in rodeo at the highest levels, but this is my first goat roping. They don't have that at the PRCA events. So I'm watching them. I'm a student of everything, and so I'm watching. First it was kids, and then it was grown-ups, and a lot of beer. But I'm watching everybody, and particularly the grown-ups who look like they know what they're doing. You know the type. The boots are dusty, the jeans are faded, and most of them have a big buckle, and they earned that buckle. But for a goat roping, nobody gives a fig about that stuff. It's all for fun. And it's pretty simple. You stand there, the goat is pushed out, you got to throw with your lariat of about 10 feet, maybe 15 if it's a fast goat. And I watched all the folks who caught the goat, and I watched all the folks who missed the goat. All the misses came when those guys or kids watched where the goat was going to come from. They were watching the gate where some hapless volunteer was pushing the goats out into the little arena. All the folks who roped a goat were looking at where the goat was going to go. Just like a bird, if you're looking on the ground where you think the bird is, your eyes, your arms, your body, your gun can't catch that bird. You can't move fast enough to do that. So whether it's a goat or a chucker, when you're approaching your dog, or you got a birdie dog, you got a flushing dog that's real birdie, and you're in the neighborhood, Figure out what is the most logical direction that bird's going to go. Be looking in that general direction. I just finished a video for pointer shotguns on this idea. Soft focus on a broad area in the direction the bird's going to go. When the bird gets up, you'll know it. Your mind will see it, your eyes will pick it up, and they already have a head start. Mount and shoot. Shooting glasses, I'm a believer. I'm cross-dominant. I promise we won't belabor the cross-dominance thing today. But there are some other good reasons to wear shooting glasses, even if you don't have to put a patch on your dominant eye so you can hit something once in a while. Here are 4 good reasons to wear shooting glasses in the field. Safety, of course. Whether it's your gun doing something weird or someone else not being careful about where they're shooting, obviously. Some lens colors, depending on your own perception, will help you pick up the target faster. And that'll hit more birds. Talked about cross dominance, put a patch on there. That's the simplest quote solution, unquote. And then here's the one that once a hunt, I'm reminded of this and I'm grateful for it. Unless you're on some cultivated patch of a southern bobwhite quail plantation, you're going to be fighting the brush. And every once in a while, a twig or a branch or something else pokey is going to hit you in the face. And if it hits you in the wrong part of the face, well, you're out for the day. And that's if you're lucky. I know it's one more thing to bring, but you might consider wearing shooting glasses in the field as well. I've given up on doubles for a bunch of reasons, but let me tell you my logical reason for that, and maybe it makes sense to you. I think 1 bird on the ground is worth 2 in the air any time. I'm not a good shooter. I already know that, and I'm a worse shooter if I'm trying to shoot 2 birds. The dog's not happy. I'm not happy. Maybe you're not happy too. When we try for a double, in my case, it usually means 2 misses. We're shooting at the first bird while we're already thinking about the second bird. So we're raising our head off the stock, either to watch that first bird fall, which means you didn't hit it, or we stopped our body swing. I'm going to call it a body swing, not a gun swing. Or we're already looking for where the second bird is going. None of those things are going to help you. Now, a dog thinks in a straight line. So should we. Shoot the first bird first. Block out everything else mentally and with your sight picture. Watch it drop. Mark it. Dismount, or some people say, a demi dismount, just a little dismount of your gun. Find another bird and shoot at it, if you can then mark it as well. But make sure the first bird is dead and down before you even think about a second bird. I think your score will go up. At least it does for me. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation podcast, trying to help you become a better shooter, well, on this half of the show, in the field. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, I talked about shooting like a predator. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Another trick, and you've all heard it before, but it's easy to say and hard to do. And I don't believe in this whole formula. But beak, bang. That presumes you're actually consciously swinging your gun so that you can do that. You can describe with your muzzle the journey from the bird's tail to its beak. Simpler for me and more like this shooting like a predator. Simply start and end by focusing on something on the front end of that bird. It could be the eye, could be the beak. In a ringneck pheasant, it's the ring. Whatever it is, force your eyes to find that thing. That in itself will help you focus. Your sight picture narrows dramatically when you start doing that. None of the distractions are out there. You're not seeing other birds. You're not seeing your dog, other hunters, or whatever else is out there. You're focused on just that. Don't ask me why, but this is the second time I've alluded to it. It helps you mount your gun right. There's got to be something to that, at least for me. Maybe for you too. Focus on their eye, their beak, the ring on their neck. It doesn't matter what it is. Just focus on one thing. Your gun will still move the right way at the right time. So will your whole body, and that's the key. You're not swinging a gun, you're swinging your whole body. That gives you the best chance at dropping another bird. Along the same lines, there are a lot of shooting styles out there. Swing through, pull through, sometimes they call it. Sustained lead, instinctive style, whatever it is. If you're one of those who likes to put a nice long lead on a bird, follow it, track it the whole way. Well, most of the instructors I've worked with these days are telling me that they're learning that the longer you try to stay on a bird with your gun swing, the more likely one of two things is going to happen. Your head, and thus your eyes, are going to just look away, almost literally. You can do it yourself. Put a camera on yourself, following birds as you're swinging your gun. At some point, your eyes will take a break, if you will. It might be a blink. It might even be a sideways look. It happens. Your eyes can only focus for a microsecond or two on a moving target most of the time. Or, just as bad, the gun muzzle starts going up and down and up and down, and that's until you get to the edge of your forward foot if you're shooting rifleman style, and it drops. So consider not following the bird with the muzzle of the gun. Work on that move, mount, shoot style instead. The moment that the gun comes up to your face, you pull the trigger. Your eyes won't blink. They won't pull off the target. And your muzzle doesn't have the time to wiggle. Oh, we're getting towards the end here at the Upland Nation podcast. I've got a million more. Like I said, 31 pages of suggestions, hacks, last-ditch efforts that might help you be a better shooter. So I'm digging through here looking for some of the things that might be most relevant to you right now. Pattern your gun. It's an eye-opener. Let's see. You got a too long gun. Maybe you've got a youth who's shooting an adult-sized gun. You can choke up and make your gun mount a little bit easier, smoother, by choking up on the forearm. In other words, moving your forearm hand a little closer to the breech. That gives you a little bit more swing up and out of your gun mount. Check it in the mirror. One of the experts that I talked with a while back said, you want to determine shotgun fit, especially on a kind of a store-bought gun instead of those great Purdy's matched doubles that I got to shoot at Midway. Well, here's one way to at least get close. Mount the gun naturally. Close your eyes in front of a mirror. Mount the gun naturally. Open your eyes. If you're shooting eye, sights right down the muzzle, over and beyond the barrel and the ribs, you're in pretty decent shape. You can probably hit birds with that gun. Longer shotgun barrel. I shoot a lot of short guns, but 2 inches in the rough grouse woods isn't going to make a heck of a lot of difference. You're not going to not bump into more trees that way. A longer barrel, 28 inches long to me, keeps that muzzle from waving around like a rodeo queen in the grand entrance. So think about that. If you're continually feeling like your gun is waving around too much, add a couple inches to the barrel and see what happens. And finally, if you were lucky enough to get a new gun this year, get to know it inside and out. Know where everything is, how to work it, take it apart before you need to do it in the field. Practice, practice, practice. And I'll see you in the field. Hey, I've still got a lot more to talk about. In fact, our Handle It segment might be fun for everybody who has a GPS collar. If you're not doing some of these things that Jim Smith asked about, well, maybe you should. It's coming up next on the Upland Nation podcast. First, a word from TrueLockChokes.com. Yeah, I've talked a little bit about chokes today, but they will have a dramatic effect on your shooting accuracy and the number of birds you put in your bag. It's just a fact of life. Most of the factory choke tubes are not well engineered, and they're not made out of great materials. Well, at TrueLock Choke Tubes, everything is made from American steel in an American factory with the highest, most stringent quality control program. Sign up for their email notifications. They do have sales every once in a while, and there's always a special of one sort or another, plus a lifetime guarantee and a satisfaction warranty. Learn more at TrueLockChoketubes. Let me do that again. TrueLockChokes.com. TrueLock, TrueLockChokes.com. Take a look at your current dog food and try to figure out how much science is behind that formula. I can almost guarantee you there are more people working on the science of dog food and dog performance at Purina than everywhere else put together. I've been there. I've seen it in action. I was at the factory, the pilot plant for dog food development, and I spoke with a lot of the researchers. These folks know their stuff. They're constantly improving every aspect of your dog's nutrition. Learn more about how they do it at ProPlansport.com. That's Purina's flagship brand for dogs like yours and mine. ProPlansport.com. It's the brand that fuels the most sporting dog champions, and there's a reason for that. ProPlansport.com. Well, I asked on the social media pages for anybody who wants help from everybody, including me, when it comes to dog training or hunting tips and that sort of thing. And I'll keep asking for that because I get some great questions. I love helping out in one way or another. So Jim Smith asks about his new training collar. It's got vibrate, tone, and shock. Okay, so I'm presuming first off it doesn't have GPS, and that's cool. Those three capabilities right there are they increase your training vocabulary dramatically, Jim. We'll talk about that. Jim's thinking, well, in addition to the vocal commands, the verbal commands that I use, I can use some of these things. And I can't believe it took me as long as it did to discover these shorthand tricks for dog handling, especially in the field, but even in training. For Jim, he's thinking vibrate will mean come back to me. Tone will mean listen for the next command. And shock means stop that and come back. Jim, you're on the right track, and the first thing I'd suggest is whatever works for you. And in fact, Lance Larson said it on one of the Facebook pages. Whatever your dog needs, you can do. I might be a little bit careful about the ones you've chosen and the way you've chosen them because, you can't expect a command, I don't care what you're doing it with, a whistle, your hands, or anything else. It can't do two things. So if vibrate is going to be come to me, great. My first suggestion is don't forget to overlay the verbal command for quite a while, just like you train any other command. And then overlay all the other ways you can do that with your whistle or hand signal. So you have 4 ways to do it. You can reach out and touch him at any distance with a vibrate. You can't yell loud enough. You certainly can't be seen if he's over the ridge. So overlay all those other things. A dog can learn all this stuff. The U.S. Army says the dog can learn hundreds of commands. So if he only has to learn 5 commands and 4 different signals for each command, you're in good shape. That's only 10% of what the Army says, now that I think about it. Here are the ones that I would suggest. The first is shock, or what the manufacturers are now calling stimulation. And, they all adjust, and so you're going to start at the lowest level, and it's really just a reminder. It's not a punishment. It's just a reminder. It's just a thought interrupter. Dogs breaking the rules, hit him with a little bit of static, and hopefully that breaks his train of thought. So keep it low. If that means don't do that, great. And that's how I use it. Very seldom. Deer chases, bunny chases, blatant disregard for safety. If he's heading for a busy road and I'm whistling him back and he's not paying attention, I'll hit him with that. All right, that one is that one. I use tone 2 ways. My recall command, besides yelling here, is I can wave my hand up over my head, or I give it 2 quick toots on the whistle. Beep, beep. My collar can do the exact same thing. And I overlay them all whenever I can. So it's out of habit now. I've trained myself. If I blow the whistle, I'm hitting the 2 toots on the collar at the same time. If I want him to change direction, my whistle command is beep, 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 beep. Same thing on the tone. So there's 2 ways to use tone right there. My vibrate I use kind of as the prequel to stimulation. It's a reminder. It says, hey, 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 yellow flag. And that usually gets his attention right there. So there's some suggestions there. My only suggestion on top of all of those, and if I'm incorporating everybody else's, is be careful about how you use that stimulation. If you're using it to come as a recall command and the dog is working birds, or worse yet, has a bird in his mouth or is pointing a bird, you're probably treading on thin ice. Good luck. Hope it helps you. Experiment. Teach it all in the yard before you teach it in the field. Do those overlays of your whistle, verbal and hand signal, and you'll have a great dog. I'm sure you will. Good luck, and see you in the field. Handle It This Week, brought to you by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. Just got off the phone with Dave Fiedler, my shotgun guru. This is a guy I go to when I'm looking for advice on starting the search for a new shotgun. Dave is a hunter. Dave is a champion target shooter. And he's always got a stock of 20, 28, and 410. So if you're looking for a sub-gauge gun, midvalleyclays.com is sub-gauge central. Start your shopping trips with a call to midvalleyclays.com. Ask for Dave Fiedler. Tell him I sent you. Then when you're ready to buy, he's got a line on a lot of the hard-to-find guns, and he'll ship anywhere. Well, we barely scratched the surface on shooting hints and hacks, desperation moves that might help you at least hit the broadside of a barn. They have for me, and maybe they will for you. I appreciate your number one. Probably half of those came from you. If you want the whole thing, check in at findbirdhuntingspots.com. I think I'll put it up right there. And then if you enjoyed the podcast this week, please tell a friend or leave a rating or a review. If you are so inclined and looking for stuff, please patronize our sponsors. They make this all possible. Sage and Breaker, Purina Pro Plan Sport, Mid-Valley Clays, Trulock Chokes, Midway USA, LandTrust.com, Pointer Shotguns, and High Viz Shooting Systems. Thanks to Jim Smith for your Handle It question. for all of you who contributed to some of the discussions over there. We'll have more coming up in the future, so keep up the good work, everybody. I'm Scott Linden. Woohoo! We're almost at the season opener. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation podcast.